Hi there, everybody, and welcome to the Growth Execution Podcast. We are here every week to give you tips, tricks, and really strong help, guidance on how to build, start, and grow your business. Delighted to be joined this week by EA Csolkovits of Givers University. EA, how are you doing?
Doing absolutely great. And I have to say, first and foremost, when I first saw the name of your podcast, I immediately knew I thought you were going to be the best thing since chopped bread. Because, and here's why, sliced bread, I guess. But and here's why, because you have something in the name of your podcast that, and forgive me for, singing to the choir, because you already know this, obviously, you put it in your podcast, but the number one business mistake I have seen in nearly 50 years of business is the lack of the ability to execute and implement. And when I saw it in your podcast name, I thought, man, I'm going to love this guy because he's got it. He's got it figured out, and he knows where the biggest hole that most business owners have is their inability to execute and implement properly. And so it is wonderful to be here with you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're very kind indeed. And I know this is going to be an amazing interview and I'm very grateful. So listen, why don't you share with our listeners how you started out on your kind of growth execution mission? What brought Givers University to life?
Well, I think, and I was sort of pondering that thought, because of your focus on execution, which I am so for. I mean, in fact, I've gotten to the point in when I did consulting in the past, I put together programs and I realized they kept dropping the ball. They didn't execute that. So I just said, forget it. I'm just going to execute it myself and I'll own it. And there were times where I was making more money than the president of the company that I put together programs for. And it was driving them nuts because because they didn't know how to execute simple programs, And so I can share with you that I pondered that thought, where did I first get the importance of execution kind of thing drilled in me. And I can share with you, I really do believe it happened, as crazy as it sounds, when I was 5 years old. Oh. I live in Michigan now, but I was born and raised in the Chicagoland area, an area called Oak Brook, a suburb of Chicago. And my father was a milkman. I'm 65 years old now, so 5 years old was literally 6 decades ago. Wow. Let me tell you, wow, does it go by fast? You just how did that happen? But all of a sudden you turn around 3 times and you are there. But wow. So here I was, 5 years old, and back then, milk came in glass gallons, and my father was a milkman. He had a one man operation, he had his own route, and he would get up at 3 a.m. And back then the delivery trucks, the small ones they weren't refrigerated. It was only the big 18-wheelers back then. So my dad had to get up 3 a.m. and I was with him at 5 years old, and he would go and chop these big blocks of ice that were like 6 feet high and put those in the truck so that it would keep the milk and eggs and half and whatever cool during the day. So, I mean, it was manual. We're talking manual work here, right? But my father always said one thing every single time we were out there. And I can share with you, there were so many things I was blessed with in learning, but it was a thing that just stuck with me. He always said the same thing. And this was at 3 a.m. He would say, well, when we're done, we're done. And the point he was always making was, and I watched this over and over again. Here he is. He didn't have a time clock. He was one man operation, had his own route, and just went and delivered milk to people. I mean, a very humble kind of, existence, if you will. But he constantly stressed, well, let's get on with it and get over with it. Because then when we're done for the day, we're done for the day and we can do whatever we want, So he for some reason, and I was so blessed with that little tiny lesson that just sort of stuck with me of, get on with it, get it over with, execute it. Don't sit there and, figure out what you got to do and don't lollygag around, and don't be a part of the biggest nation in the world, which is the procrastination. Don't be a part of that. Right.
Love it.
So that's really, I think, where I got that first lesson was at ripe old age of 5 years old, 60 years ago, let's get on with it. Let's implement.
Yeah, love that. And as you say, a lot of people spend a lot of time talking, and and I spend, and I'm sure you do as well, with clients, with others, just kind of saying, look, we've just got to get to the stage where we're testing this stuff out, we're really giving it a whack, and then we learn. sitting and
Yeah.
having conversations in offices, sitting around a table is wonderful, but you never know until you get out there and you give it a swing. Brilliant. And for Givers University, let's just if I might just divert you into that for a sec. So what is it that you guys do, and how has this come to life?
Well, how it came to life, I can actually pick it up from the previous story. And I should warn your listeners, I never say anything in 10 minutes if I can say it in 20. So, I just...
You have approximately 20 minutes.
Yeah.
We'll see how I get.
Yeah. So, thank God you can edit. Anyway, so here I was at my first big step into being, on my own, if you will, and being successful was at 16 years old. I decided to become a janitor. And now I didn't mind being a janitor because business was always picking up. What? Anyway, so here I was as a janitor at 16 years old. And I had two extraordinary events that were directly relatable to Givers University coming about. The first one was it was so strange the way this happened. At 16 years old, Mel, I was able to be bonded, which basically means insured. So, in case my buffer went crazy in a business or something, the insurance would pay for whatever damage my buffer might have done, when I was cleaning places or something. That also allowed me to be in really expensive places. So one of those homes I was able to clean it, and I cleaned it every single Wednesday, was a lady by the name of June Martino. Now that name means nothing to your listeners until I make a movie reference. There was a movie out within the last couple of years, readily available on streaming. I believe it'll be out for a long time because it's a pretty good watch. The name of the movie is called The Founder. It's about McDonald's, and Michael Keaton plays Ray Kroc. Did you happen to catch it?
Do you know, I've heard about it. I've heard great things about it.
Definitely.
It's one that's on my list to watch for sure.
I'll give you a couple of things that when you do see it, you're going to think of me. At least I hope you do. And I hope it's in a favorable way. Anyway, so in the movie, Michael Keaton plays Ray Kroc, right? And I will say this, having lived in Oak Brook, where the world headquarters for McDonald's was for decades and decades. I literally lived the McDonald's phenomenon during my lifetime. Wow. And so the movie has a lot of Hollywood spin. Ray Kroc wasn't that way. And, they it's Hollywood spin, dramatize it to get viewers and try to get interest out of the story. But anyway, so in the movie, you will see Michael Keaton constantly talking to a lady outside his office. And he says, June this, June this, June that. You'll see, and she's in the entire movie. Okay. That lady is the lady whose house I cleaned.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, when I met her at 16 years old, she had the third most controlling stock in McDonald's. And so she was an icon, the Oak Brook area. Everyone knew who June Martino was. And her home was in this place called Ginger Creek, which was really still Oak Brook, but a very exclusive, $1 million homes back then when I was 16 years old. And here's an interesting thing. For some reason, Mel, and I don't know why, I had a thought in my mind that was so wrong and so erroneous. I thought that in order to be successful, and I don't know where this came from, that you had to be a jerk. You had to be the kind of person that pushed other people down. You had to be me only, me first oriented. You had to be the first one that could say, it's only business. You had to be that kind of person. I was so wrong. And especially when I saw her and met her, here I am in this $1 million home. She's got full-time maid and butler. I don't remember the butler's name. I remember the maid's name was Viola, but I don't remember what his name was. But and I was there to buff the floors with a special buffing pad and clean the swimming pool and clean the garage. And by the way, side note, loved cleaning the garage because in order to clean the garage, I had to pull out the Rolls Royce. So here I am sitting in a car 10 lifetimes of my income, right? And at the end of the day, I'm going home and I'm driving a Rolls Canardly, which rolls down one hill and can hardly make it up the next, right? So I'm driving my Rolls Canardly and I'm sitting there, this is a real Rolls Royce. But here's the thing. She was so approachable, so nice, so kind, never condescending to the help. To show you, if I was looking down, buffing on the floor, and she walked through and saw me before I saw her, she would say hello first. That nice and approachable. And it was mind blowing to me because I thought, man, this is just the opposite of what I thought. And here she is. I can't even count the zeros on my fingers and toes that she's worth. And she's so nice and so happy and so approachable. So I kept watching it and I kept thinking, what's the difference between her and I? I mean, obviously I'm cleaning her floors, but there's some difference somewhere. And she obviously knows something I don't know. And she must be doing something I'm not doing, because there's a big difference between right where she's at and where I'm at. So one day, Mel, I mustered up all the courage that a snot-nosed 16-year-old could. I'm going to go up and ask June Martino a question. The icon. I'm approaching her with I'm literally shaking in my janitorial boots. I'm not kidding. Because I'm going to talk to her one-on-one for even a split second. So I said, hi, June. And she said, hi. I mean, just so approachable. It was astonishing to me. And I said, can I ask you a question? She said, sure. And I said, well, could you tell me about it? And she said, well, what's that? And I said, well, the whole McDonald story. And I'm not kidding. She put her arm around me, brought me into the kitchen. I had asked her in the morning, and the entire day told me the entire story. And in the movie, you will see the movie begins before Ray Kroc meets the brothers, the McDonald's brothers. Yeah. He actually is a milkshake mixer salesman. She starts the story there because she was working for him then. And way before she was working for him before he met the brothers. So she tells me play by play, the whole story all the way through up until the moment we're sitting in the kitchen. She even has the maid and butlers bringing us food so she can keep telling me the story in the kitchen. And I'm thinking, this is crazy. This is June Martino, the icon, and she's telling the 16-year-old this question. So there's a part in the movie. Remember when you see this, there's a part in the movie because June kept the books. So she goes to Ray Kroc, Michael Keaton, and she says, we don't have any money. We're only getting like less than 2%. And, we're getting a small, insignificant amount. More money's going out to come in. We have zero money. There's no cash. So she told me, and that isn't, the movie, again, it's an event, but it's portrayed Hollywood spin. But in real life, she told me, she said, so we made an agreement that Ray wouldn't pay me. Didn't matter really because he couldn't. There was no money anyway. So I agreed to keep working for no pay. And he gave me stock in a worth less than zero company, McDonald's, less than zero. And he would take some of the bill collectors if need be from some of the bill, so they wouldn't hound me on the phone. So I asked her, I said, June, I'm a janitor. I work paycheck to paycheck, Friday to Friday. If I don't get paid on Friday, I'm not showing on Saturday. I need that paycheck. Why did you do it? Mel, she sat back, stared at me and did this eye lock on me that was almost spooky. And I could tell she just left the room. And I inadvertently had just asked her a question no one had ever asked her before. Everyone to know what happened with McDonald's, but no one ever asked why. So when I just simply said, why'd you do it? Why'd you work for nothing? She sat back and just did this eye lock on me and left the room. And about 10 seconds went by, and I'm, now I'm feeling uncomfortable. She's staring at me in this eye lock, and I'm going, I'm trying to figure out where to look because I'm still intimidated by this. Is June Martino, and I'm a 16-year-old kid, And then she spoke, and I can remember not only what she said, the way she said it, and my immediate thought. When I asked her, June, why'd you do it? Why'd you work for nothing? She replied and said, because I believed in Ray. And it made the hair stand, the way she said it, made the hair stand up on the back of my neck. And my first thought, instant thought was, that's it. That's what I needed to hear. I need to find me a Ray Kroc. It certainly didn't work out too bad for her. I mean, I'm cleaning her house. I need to find my Ray Kroc that can pull me under his wing, teach me everything he knows, and I could become rich and happy. Not realizing I even had that backwards. I had that backwards. First we should be happy and then rich. But at 16, I'm all about the money, right? So it wasn't. So I just threw out there. It was intelligently ignorant, puritanically. I just threw out there, Mel, where's my Ray Kroc? Where would I find him? And it wasn't about maybe 3 months later at the same janitorial service I worked for. That was in Addison, Illinois. Now, Chicago's got a lot of suburbs, and Addison is another one. Right. Sort of janitorial service was. And it was in the evening. I was talking with the boss. We were friends, and he was friends of the family. And it was after dinner time. I had already punched out. I'd been cleaning all day. Phone rings, and he talks for a few minutes, hangs up the phone. And he said, well, that was some guy from Detroit, and he's opening a diamond store, and he wants to, they're doing a whole rebuild inside the diamond store. So he needs to see some carpeting and needs to see it tonight because he's leaving on a plane going back to Detroit tomorrow. I said, okay, what's that got to do with me? Because I need you to go. I said, Jerry, I'm not going. Now we're going to count, Mal, how many times I say no. An important lesson is woven in all of this. So this is the first time I say no. And I say, Jerry, I'm not going. I've been cleaning all day. I'm exhausted. I'm mentally fatigued, physically fatigued. I'm not going. He said, I need you to go. I have to stay here. You've got to bid out this carpet job. I said, Jerry, I'm not going. Second time I said no. I said, I don't know anything about carpeting. I can clean it. I can shampoo it. I don't know how to do a carpet bid. I don't know how to bid out a carpet job. I don't know how to measure it and everything. He said, you have to go. And I said, Jerry, I'm sorry. I'm not going. I'm not punching back in. I've already punched out 3 times. I've said no. Yeah. Because I'll tell you what, if you go, I'll give you your pick of any Saturday you want off. Now for a janitor, that's a huge negotiation chip. So I repeated it back to make sure, because we're cleaning when businesses are closed. So Saturday, we're cleaning morning till night. So any Saturday. So I answered back. I said, any Saturday I went off? He said, yeah, any Saturday. I said, okay, Jerry. So I took the samples and I'm throwing them in the back of my Rolls Canardly, and I'm getting ready to meet. Little do I know, setting the stage for your listeners, I'm getting ready to meet the man that will change the trajectory of my life forever. My Ray Kroc. Wow. The man that will become the father I never had, even though I had a father, and I became the son he never had, even though he had a son. This is my Ray Kroc. And I'm saying no, 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 all these times. So I share with your listeners, number one, be careful. Yeah. Be observant to those moments in time that will seem so insignificant, so tiny on the edge of a dime, that will be the single event that will literally transport you into a whole nother path of your life. Mm. And so here I am, and I meet this man. He offers me a job. I say no. Then he offers me a job again. I say no. And then, and then as I'm walking out the door, saying no now the third time, even though I had this incredible comfort level with this guy, he hits me with something that he knew was going to grind me. He knew it was going to get my goat. As I'm walking out the door, I said, what do you have to lose? You could always go back being a janitor. And I said, oh, no, I'm all set. So now I've said no 6 times. I leave. Now, by the way, this is all in the same night. So it's approaching midnight and I'm driving home. Now it's getting to me. What do you mean by that? I guess I could always get a job somewhere. I mean, people always make a mess and I can always clean it up. And you know what? What does he mean by, what do I got to lose? I'm going to find out exactly what he's got on his mind. So I turned the car around thinking he's going to be gone anyway, going back to Detroit. He's still there. So he offers me the job. We reach an agreement for the next 4 months. I get in the car at 4:30 in the morning, 4:30 in the morning at Friday night, Saturday morning. Drive 6 hours to Detroit, 301 miles was the mileage. I remember it so vividly. Wow. From Chicago to Detroit, met him for 6 hours, got back in the car and drove all the way home the same day for 4 months in a row in the heart of winter and never missed a weekend because he had it and I knew I wanted it. And I didn't even know what I wanted. I didn't know what a mentor was. I didn't even know how to spell it. I'd already spent my hooked on phonics money. So I didn't even know, what in the world all this stuff even meant. All I knew was in my mind, he was my Ray Kroc. So here, and then at 19 years old, I asked him the question. I said, Sam, his name was Sam Robbins. I said, Sam, will you teach me everything? And I mean, all of it. Will you teach me it all? Don't hold back. I want to know it all. He said, okay, but I want one thing from you. He said, when the time is right, and you will know that time, I want you to teach as many other people everything that I teach you. Wow. So at 19 years old, I made a vow. I made an oath I made a commitment to my mentor that today is manifest as what we know as Givers University. So all of this dated all the way back to that event with June Martino and the things, the little lessons that were woven in between there, such as here she is in an instance where she has no money. She's not getting paid. Why did she keep working for him? One of the lessons my business mentor taught me, one of the things I learned, every adversity, not some, every adversity in life carries with the seed of an equal or greater benefit. It's up to us to move those leaves aside and find those seeds. And that I began to learn that and one of the things my mentor taught me was get rid of the word failure. It's the ultimate F-bomb. Get rid of it. He said, because it's too eternal. He said, supplant the word failure with temporary defeat. He said, because failure is eternal. He said, but when you have a temporary defeat, that just means you got tackled and you're going to get tackled thousands of times. Yeah. He said, but when you stand up, you're going to realize you just got a first down. You're still in the game. Yeah. Don't throw yourself out of the game by using the word failure over and over again. A program isn't a failure. A product's not a failure. It's a temporary defeat.
Love that.
So he taught me, supplant that in your mind. Now, the next thing I'm going to say, that Mel, your listeners are going to think this guy from Michigan has lost it when I say the next thing I'm going to say. This is a noodle baker, as I call it. Because when I say this, people look at me like I just grew a second head or something. But when they start to really ponder it, they begin to see the truth of it. And that's as follows. It is true, as my business mentor drilled in me, every adversity, not some, all adversities carry with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. We have to move aside the leaves. We look for the seeds. They're always there. Not sometimes, always.
Yeah.
When we really begin to understand the role of temporary defeat in our life, here comes the noodle baking. When we really begin to understand it, we now begin to welcome it and embrace it. And when we do that, we're no longer coming from a place of fear, but now we're coming from a place of the seeds I need are there, and I would not have been able to go to the next step up if I had not had those seeds, which only made themselves available because of the temporary defeat. And as we begin to do that faster and faster in our lives, my business mentor said, you will see one day that you will not be walking up the steps towards prosperity. You'll be in a flat out run because everyone else is coming from a position of fear and they're afraid of failure, afraid of failure. What if this, what if that, what if that? He said, everyone wants the answers. Wrong. Do not look for the answers. They're always there anyway. They're omnipresent. Focus on asking the right questions.
Yeah, brilliant.
And that's what I did inadvertently, impetuously, ignorantly, after I met June Martino, when I said, where's my Ray Kroc? I never said I'm not going to meet him. I never said I'm not going to be lucky like her. I just figured he was there somewhere. And I was wondering, where am I going to meet him? And it wasn't 3 or 4 months later, boom, this phone call comes in at night out of nowhere. Yeah. And there it is. There's my Ray Kroc. So that's how Givers University came about.
Brilliant. And do you think that, and it's really interesting, isn't it? Because there's all this kind of stuff about manifesting and, that fundamental belief that the universe will serve up what you need at the time you need it if you believe hard enough that it will. Is that something that you believe? Do you believe that you kind of manifested itself, or was it there, and if you hadn't passed it by, then it was just that opportunity kind of passed?
I think it was a 2-part thing. That one part was, yes, I did inadvertently. I didn't do it on purpose. I didn't know what I was doing. I just happened to have asked the right question. Yeah. But the part 2, Mal, is what you nail in your podcast. I executed. I implemented. Even though I said no, when I went to meet my mentor and I was physically exhausted, mentally exhausted, cleaning all day, I still did this weird negotiation. And the only reason I met him was because of the free Saturday off. It wasn't to meet this guy from Detroit, but I still implemented, and so I can share with you that it was that part, that execution part of not only just manifesting, a person just says, I'm going to wait back and, the world's going to give me it doesn't work that way.
No,
it doesn't work that way.
Couldn't
First
agree more.
we ask the right question, and then we have to be willing to execute the right thing and the right program. And cliches are cliches because they're usually true, not always. And one of them that I always take issue with is people say all the time, well, they say, well, practice makes perfect. No, practice never made perfect. It never does. Perfect practice makes perfect. You need a mentor. You need a Mal McCollum in your life. You need a great podcast called Business Growth Execution in your life, so that you can learn through mentoring. See, it was my mentor, Mal, that did it. It wasn't me. I had great blessings in my life at really early ages. I say these things because I was dumb enough and humble enough to simply say, I don't know. I'd love to learn that.
Yeah,
and don't you think today, Mel, people get so caught up with, I got to look good, I got to look important, I got to be the smartest person in the room, and they get so caught up with all that they lose these incredible opportunities to learn by just being a little humble and say, that's really interesting. Could you teach me about that? I'd love to learn that.
I think that's so important. And I think you're right. Our culture very much drives this kind of bravado and this sort of ego about, everybody is succeeding and look at their Instagram and look at what they're putting out on social media. When in reality, what you say is absolutely true. People need those shortcuts, right? They need the lessons and the wisdom from people who've come before. So I think that's so valuable. And thank you so much for sharing with us and with the listeners. I always ask, and I could carry on with this conversation for hours, and I'm so grateful for you making time. But I always have to ask a few questions, if I may, just quick fire.
Yes, please do.
Just to kind of get some real insights into you and your business and so on. So if you were to look back, and obviously you've had so much, I think, advice over time, is there one piece of advice that you think is the most important that you've had over time that you'd share with our listeners?
Well, the most important is the caveat there. That's the toughie. But if I was to maybe do something a little bit different, I would be willing to accept temporary defeat faster and more frequently than I did at an earlier age. To learn, as I moved from learning the difference between failure and temporary defeat into, as wisdom began to supplant impetuousness, it would have been nice at an earlier age to have been able to grasp the importance of being able to welcome and embrace temporary defeat and move on with it, and to learn how to move those leaves aside fast, grab those seeds and move on for the next temporary defeat. So I would do that. That would be something I think would have helped me along a little bit quicker than I was blessed to move along as it was.
Thank you very much, Steve, for that. Is there, or are there anybody or any people who you kind of look up to as inspirational? I mean, obviously, you mentioned your mentors and people like that. Is there anybody that kind of leaps out at you right now that kind of really you look at and think that's somewhere that's valuable?
Well, two answers with that. One, of course, is my business mentor. You had to figure that one. Sam Robbins. He impacted my life in so many ways, and I still believe he's looking on over my shoulder right now, and he keeps delivering to me because I keep living up to my vow and my oath. And the other thing that was very important to me was the numerical is not a, it's a many. I was blessed for 2 years to have a business talk show, and I interviewed in 2 years over 1,000 millionaires.
Wow.
And I was able to ask them questions. And as a result of these questions, I was able to ask off the air. I was blessed with gaining many insights into the commonalities of these 1,000 millionaires. And some of the stories were amazingly, in fact, I can tell you this, all of them had a time in their life where everything told them to stop. Business, family, economics, money, everything across the board, everything, and they took the next step. They all had that story. And they all said, I took the next step out of morbid curiosity to see if I had missed anything from going wrong, because I thought I had to have hit everything. Is there anything else that could possibly go wrong. And they said, and then all of a sudden, things started to work out on their own. And it was like temporary defeat exited their life and went into someone else's life and said, it's going to be easier to screw up this guy's life because this guy doesn't know when to stop, or this gal doesn't know when to stop. Wow. And they all 1,000 of them had that story, Mel.
Do you know what? Because there's something about, and I think this is true of almost every successful entrepreneur that I've met, a curiosity and resilience are kind of the two things that I keep coming across. And that is absolutely perfectly illustrated in what you just said. It's the curiosity to keep going. Is there really anything? Have I tried
out? Yeah, right. Even if it's morbid curiosity, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, yeah, absolutely. It's like, am I sure? Yeah. And then, the resilience, keep taking the punches and then keep getting up and going, all right, let's go see what happens.
That's super.
Right. You've been such a great guest and I've loved our conversation.
Thank you. Thank you.
How would the listeners be able to reach out and get in touch with you?
Simply go to our website, Givers, plural, giversuniversity.com. We actually are right now, and it's about 2 weeks away from a huge update on our website. So in about 2 weeks from now, they can go because the sign up for our email free newsletter is already on the new site. It just hasn't been published yet. But so they go giversuniversity.com. They'll see our old site there now. They just want to know how to sign up. And it's full of information. But something I'm going to share with your listeners, which I think is very important, because we get into what do we do at Givers University, and specifically what do we teach, and we teach people to condense it. First of all, I say to your listeners, we love everybody. We love everybody, but we teach people at Givers University how to discern, how to separate the person who we love from their deeds, which we may not love. And by separating those, we teach people to look for these specific, observe these exact deeds at a very granular level. And when you see them doing these things, you may want to think, should I bring them closer into my life and become a part of my Givers community? Or should I begin respectfully distancing myself because they're going to bring with them the 3 Ds of takers, which is defeatism, disruption, and destruction. So when I bring them into my life, they're bringing those with them. And I'm going to be stomping out fires not of my making, and I'm going to become collateral damage. So we teach people by virtue of even checklists, very granular, look for these deeds. So when they sign up for our free newsletter, it's absolutely free. First of all, we don't spam people. And I hate that. I sign up for a newsletter and I'm getting 6 emails a day from them. Next thing you know, unsubscribe. They're just nailing my box, right? But so we send out 1 email a week. It's on Thursday. And it has very useful tips that they can add into their relationship building toolbox that helps them build, to discern in their relationship. So they're going to get an email. As soon as they sign up for these newsletters, they get an email that says, do you want to communicate with them? Because we don't spam. And as soon as they say yes, they're going to get 1 email that's a download right away that says, and the title of it is The 6 Arrows That Takers Shoot at Givers. And then a couple of days later, they get another complimentary download. This is a favorite checklist of mine. It's called the 25 Do's. Mel, these are the 25 actual deeds to look for that people will do that'll help you in your discerning of your relationships. And then every Thursday, they'll get a nice email that gives them great tools that add as a part of it. And as a closing thought, that I can share with you, the one thing that if someone was to ask me, what's the one thing that you would have everyone do? And what's the one thing you've done every day that has impacted your life more than anything else? This would be it. My business mentor convinced me to say something to myself every day, and I have for decades, and it is so golden. And it's 3 little snippets. And I share with your listeners, when I orate those, please make them a part of your life and watch what happens when you begin saying these things to yourself and how it changes how you reframe things in your mind. And the 3 things my business mentor taught me to say over and over again that I say every day are as follows. I will never give up. I will keep rising up, and I will always overcome.
Love that. That's really, really strong, really powerful. Listen, thank you. I don't think I could end it any better than that, so I will say no more, apart from to thank you, EA Csolkovits. Thank you for taking time to to share with our listeners all of your wisdom and all of those great tips as well. So listen, if you want to get in touch with EA, please do go to givesuniversity.com. This was the Growth Execution Podcast. Thank you, EA. All the very best.
Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. God bless and have your absolute best day ever.